Question 1. When did Ahsoka confirm that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader? To pinpoint the moment Ahsoka Tano confirms Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader, one must first contextualize her journey through the aftermath of Order 66. The Jedi Purge, orchestrated by Emperor Palpatine, marked the end of the Jedi Order and the rise of the Galactic Empire. At the time of this cataclysm, Ahsoka had already severed ties with the Jedi Council, having left the Order to forge an independent path after being wrongfully accused of treason. Her escape alongside Clone Captain Rex, facilitated by faking their deaths, allowed her to vanish from Imperial records, but it also left her adrift without clarity on her former master's fate. For years following Order 66, Ahsoka existed in the shadows. She was aware of the Empire's official narrative surrounding Darth Vader, the Sith Lord tasked with eradicating remaining Jedi and dissidents. Yet she refused to reconcile this figure of terror with the Anakin Skywalker she knew. The Anakin in her memories was the brash, loyal Jedi Knight who had trained her from adolescence, defended her against the Council's accusations, and fought alongside her in pivotal Clone War campaigns such as the Battle of Mandalore and the Siege of Christophsis. This cognitive dissonance kept her from confronting the truth until her quest for a Sith holocron led her to Malachor, a desolate world steeped in ancient Force lore, where Jedi and Sith had clashed millennia earlier. Malachor's significance in the Star Wars canon extends beyond its role as a meeting ground for Ahsoka and Vader. The planet is home to the ruins of a Sith temple, a structure infused with dark side energy that amplifies Force sensitivities. It was here that Ahsoka's search intersected with Vader's own mission to recover Sith artifacts. Their initial encounter unfolded as a standard confrontation between a former Jedi and a Sith Lord, Ahsoka, wielding her signature white lightsabers forged by purifying kyber crystals stolen from an Inquisitor, engaged the cloaked figure with the tactical precision honed during her Clone War service. What distinguished this battle from others was the subtle, unavoidable parallels to her past with Anakin. Vader's combat style bore the unmistakable hallmarks of Anakin's aggressive, acrobatic technique, a blend of form vgmso and Ataru that prioritized offense and adaptability. Even through the mechanical distortion of his helmet, his voice carried a cadence Ahsoka recognized from years of training sessions and battlefield banter. These cues alone were not enough to confirm her suspicion, but they planted a seed of doubt that grew as the fight progressed. The critical confirmation came when Vader referenced specifics of their shared history details only Anakin could know. He mentioned their training drills in the Jedi Temple's sparring halls, her tendency to exploit gaps in his defensive stance, and a passing comment they had exchanged during a hyperspace jump to Felucia. These personal references shattered Ahsoka's denial. She recognized that the Sith Lord before her was not merely emulating Anakin's style, but was Anakin himself, twisted by the dark side and mechanical augmentations. This realization had profound implications for both Ahsoka's character arc and the broader Star Wars timeline. Prior to Malachor, Ahsoka's motivation had centered on survival and protecting isolated Jedi cells. After confirming Anakin's fate, her mission shifted to actively opposing the Empire. Her resolve was fueled not only by a desire to uphold the Jedi's core values of justice, but also by a need to honor the memory of the Anakin she had known before his fall to the dark side. Their confrontation on Malachor also revealed layers of Vader's internal conflict. While he remained committed to the Empire's agenda, his strikes against Ahsoka lacked the unbridled brutality he displayed toward other Jedi. This hesitation aligns with other canon depictions, such as his interactions with Luke Skywalker, suggesting that traces of Anakin's humanity persisted beneath his Sith persona. For Ahsoka, this faint hesitation only deepened her anguish. She was forced to confront the reality that the man she had admired was still present, trapped within the Vader identity. In the years following Malachor, Ahsoka's actions were shaped by this revelation. She became a key figure in the early rebellion, working with figures like Hera Syndulla and Kanan Jarrus to undermine Imperial operations. Her knowledge of Vader's true identity gave her a unique perspective on the Empire's leadership, allowing her to anticipate his tactics and avoid direct confrontation whenever possible. This strategic caution, born from the trauma of Malachor, defined her role in the galactic conflict until her eventual reunion with Anakin's spirit in the world between worlds, a moment that offered her a measure of closure regarding his fall. Question 2. What is the truth behind the core incident of Ahsoka being expelled from the Jedi Order? Here's the real story. It all went down during the Clone Wars, right around the end of the 5th season of the Clone Wars animated series. The big incident was a deadly explosion at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Everyone initially blamed Ahsoka, but she was totally framed. Turns out the real culprit was Barriss Offee, another Jedi Padawan and actually a friend of Ahsoka's. Barriss had grown super disillusioned with the Clone Wars and thought the Jedi Council had lost their way, that they were just fueling the war instead of stopping it. So she joined an anti-war group, planted the bomb in the temple's hangar, and then covered her tracks by killing the only witness to the explosion. To make sure Ahsoka took the fall, she even attacked Ahsoka while wearing a mask, leaving evidence that pointed straight to her. The Jedi Council was quick to accuse Ahsoka without solid proof. They arrested her, stripped her of her Padawan status, and were ready to convict her. But Anakin refused to believe she was guilty. He went on a total mission to find the truth, digging into every lead until he tracked down Barriss. He confronted her, and she finally admitted everything. Even though Ahsoka was cleared of all charges, the damage was done. She felt betrayed by the Council. They turned on her so fast, no questions asked. When they offered to let her rejoin the Jedi Order, she said no. She couldn't stay in a place that didn't trust her, even if Anakin had stood by her. So she left the Jedi for good, right then and there. Question 3. Does Ahsoka's departure foreshadow the institutional flaws of the Jedi Order? Ahsoka's choice to walk away wasn't just some personal tantrum. It was a giant red flag that screamed the Jedi Order was broken from the inside out, and yeah, it totally foreshadowed their eventual collapse. Let's rewind to that temple bombing mess. Barriss Offee set the whole thing up, but the Jedi Council didn't bother digging for proof. They saw Ahsoka, a young Padawan with a history of bending rules, and immediately pointed fingers. No due process, no benefit of the doubt, just a rush to judgment because she fit a convenient narrative. Anakin had to play detective and uncover the truth on his own, which says it all. The Council was so wrapped up in their own rigid rules and their role as the Republic's enforcers that they forgot how to trust the very people they were supposed to guide. And it's not just the bombing case. The Jedi Order had this toxic habit of pushing aside emotions, of treating their members like weapons instead of people. Ahsoka was loyal, brave, and had proven herself 100 times over in the Clone Wars. But when push came to shove, the Council tossed her under the bus. Even after they cleared her name and begged her to come back, Ahsoka knew better. She saw that the Order cared more about its reputation than its own members. That flaw didn't just hurt Ahsoka. It festered. Later, when Palpatine pulled the strings on Order 66, the Jedi were caught completely off guard. They'd grown so disconnected from the galaxy, so blind to their own arrogance, that they couldn't see the betrayal coming. Ahsoka's departure was the first crack in the foundation, one that would eventually split the whole Order apart for good. Question 4. How did Ahsoka obtain her white lightsabers by purifying red kyber crystals? Alright, let's break this down nice and simple. First off, those red kyber crystals didn't start out that way. Sith and Imperial Inquisitors like to bleed them with dark side energy, forcing the crystals to submit and turn red. Ahsoka got hers from an Inquisitor called the Sixth Brother, whom she took down a year after the Clone Wars ended. After defeating him, she grabbed the 2 red crystals from his double-bladed lightsaber. Instead of using dark side energy to keep them red, or trying to force them back to their original color, she did something totally unique. She purified them with the Force. She meditated, focused on balance, and channeled pure neutral energy into the crystals. No anger, no greed, just wiping out the dark side's taint. The crystals didn't go back to blue or green or whatever they were before. Instead, they turned white like they'd been bleached clean of all that dark influence. And that's why her lightsabers are white. They're a sign she's not a Jedi anymore, but she's not a Sith either. She found her own path, and those purified crystals, they're a perfect match for her neutral stance in the Force. Super cool, right? It's basically her way of saying she's fighting for good on her own terms. Question 5. What are the practical combat advantages of Ahsoka's short-hilted dual lightsabers design? Ahsoka's short-hilted dual lightsabers are basically tailor-made for her fast, acrobatic fighting style, and the perks in a fight are no joke. First off, those short hilts are super lightweight and easy to maneuver. Unlike the long, bulky hilts most Jedi use, she can swing these things around at lightning speed, dart in and out of an opponent's defenses, and pull off those quick, tricky strikes that leave enemies scrambling to keep up. Perfect for someone who relies on agility over brute force, right? Then there's the dual-wielding angle paired with the short hilts. She can split her focus between offense and defense seamlessly. One saber can block an incoming attack while the other slashes at a weak spot before the enemy even registers what's happening. It's a total mind game. Opponents can never predict which saber she's going to use next, especially when she's taking on multiple foes like clone troopers or Imperial Inquisitors. And let's not sleep on the tight space advantage. Think about all the times she's fought in cramped starship corridors, crumbling temple ruins, or dense forests. A long-hilted lightsaber would be totally useless there. It'd get caught on walls or debris. But her short hilts? She can whip them around without any restriction, making those tight spots work to her advantage instead of holding her back. Oh, and portability is a huge win too. Back when she was laying low after Order 66, hiding from the Empire, those short hilts were easy to tuck away in a cloak or a gear bag. No one would spot them unless she wanted to, which was a lifesaver for her secret missions. They're not just weapons, they're a perfect fit for how she fights, how she survives, and how she stays one step ahead of every enemy that comes her way. Question 6. Are there contradictions in Ahsoka's attitude toward the New Republic across different Star Wars works? On the surface, Ahsoka's take on the New Republic seems all over the place in different works, but dig a little deeper and it's actually super consistent, no real contradictions at all. Here's the setup. After the Empire fell, the New Republic stepped up to take its place, and Ahsoka was right there helping lay the groundwork back in the final seasons of Rebels. She fought alongside the Rebel Alliance, took down Imperial warlords, and did her part to end the Empire's reign of terror. She clearly wanted a free galaxy, and the New Republic was supposed to be the answer to that. But once the Republic was officially up and running, she didn't stick around to join the party. Fast forward to The Mandalorian, and she's acting all distant from the New Republic's forces. When she runs into their X-Wing pilots, she's not exactly warm and fuzzy. She keeps her mission with Grogu close to her chest and bails as soon as she can. Then, in the Ahsoka live-action series, it's even more obvious. She's out here chasing Thrawn and looking for Ezra all on her own, barely bothering to loop in the New Republic's leadership. When Hera tries to get the Republic's navy to back her up, the politicians just sit around arguing and refuse to commit any resources. Ahsoka saw that coming a mile away. She didn't even ask for their help in the first place. So, why does she seem so hot and cold? Simple. She never had a problem with what the New Republic stood for: ending tyranny, giving planets self-governance, all that good stuff. But she absolutely hated how the Republic ran things. It was bogged down by bureaucracy, political infighting, and a bunch of leaders who were so scared of repeating the Empire's mistakes that they refused to take bold action against Imperial remnants like Thrawn. Ahsoka's whole deal is about getting things done, not sitting around in a Senate chamber debating for weeks on end. In Rebels, she supported the rebellion because it was a scrappy, do-or-die movement. Once it became the New Republic, with all its red tape and compromises, she stepped back. She didn't turn against the Republic, she just chose not to rely on it. She trusted her own team, her own judgment, way more than she trusted a bunch of politicians who couldn't tell a threat from a paperwork pileup. So yeah, her approach looks different in different works, but her core attitude never wavered. The New Republic is better than the Empire, but it's far from perfect, and she's not about to tie herself down to a system that moves slower than a bantha in the desert. Question 7. Why was her Jedi training with Sabine abruptly halted halfway? Ahsoka's Jedi training with Sabine didn't end because of some big fight or a surprise attack. It fell apart because of two simple, unshakable things: Sabine's real motivation for learning the Force, and their totally clashing ideas about what being a Jedi actually means. First off, Sabine never wanted to be a Jedi for the sake of being a Jedi. She showed up at Ahsoka's door begging to learn the Force for one reason and one reason only. She wanted to find Ezra Bridger. Ezra was her best friend, her family, and he'd vanished into hyperspace with Thrawn years back. Sabine figured if she could tap into the Force, she'd have a shot at tracking him down, no matter where he was. That's not a bad goal on its own, but Ahsoka knew Jedi training isn't some shortcut tool. It's a whole way of life that requires you to let go of your deepest attachments, not cling tighter to them. Then there's the training itself. Ahsoka tried to teach Sabine the basics: meditation, focusing her energy, connecting with the Force without anger or fear. But every time they practiced, Sabine's mind would drift back to Ezra. She'd get frustrated when her powers didn't kick in fast enough, when she couldn't just skip the boring stuff and jump straight to finding her friend. Ahsoka saw that fire in her, that desperation, and it scared her a little. Ahsoka had been there. She'd lost Anakin to the dark side because of his inability to let go of Padme. She didn't want Sabine to go down that same road, using the Force out of grief and obsession instead of balance and purpose. The breaking point came when Sabine's emotions got the better of her during a training session. She lashed out with the Force, not out of malice, but out of frustration that she wasn't progressing fast enough. Ahsoka stepped in right away, and that's when she made the call to stop the training. She told Sabine she wasn't ready, not because she wasn't capable, but because she wasn't willing to confront the fact that she might never find Ezra, or that even if she did, she'd have to let him choose his own path. So yeah, the training stopped halfway because Ahsoka cared too much to let Sabine rush into something she wasn't prepared for. Sabine was too focused on the end goal to put in the work to become a true Force user, and Ahsoka wasn't about to let her turn the Force into a tool for her own grief. They still cared about each other, don't get me wrong, but that rift over why they were doing the training in the first place? It was too big to fix, at least back then. Question 8. Why did Baylan Skoll, a former Jedi, choose to become an enemy of Ahsoka? Baylan Skoll didn't just wake up one day and decide to hate Ahsoka for no reason. His beef with her stems from a mix of his own bitter history with the Jedi Order, his complicated feelings about Anakin Skywalker, and their totally conflicting visions for what the Force should be used for. First off, Baylan was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66. The clone troopers turning on their Jedi generals, the Empire hunting down every last one of them. That betrayal messed him up big time. He watched the Jedi he'd served with die, saw the Order he'd dedicated his life to crumble into dust, and then he found out the worst part. His old friend Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, had become Darth Vader, the Empire's most feared enforcer. That revelation shattered his entire belief system. He didn't just lose faith in the Jedi, he lost faith in the whole idea of light versus dark, good versus evil, that they'd always preached. Now, here's where Ahsoka comes in. She's Anakin's former Padawan, right? She's the one who left the Jedi Order before Order 66, survived the Empire, and came out the other side still clinging to those Jedi ideals. Balance, compassion, all that stuff. Baylan sees her as a reminder of everything he's rejected. He thinks she's still stuck in the past, chasing a broken dream of what the Jedi used to be. He even tries to dig at her during their fights, bringing up Anakin's fall like it's a gotcha moment, hoping to make her question her own path. But it's not just about Anakin. Baylan has his own agenda. He's tired of the never-ending cycle of Jedi rising, falling, then another empire taking over. He wants to break that cycle for good, and he thinks the only way to do that is to find some ancient primordial power on Peridea, a planet in the unknown regions. He doesn't care about Thrawn's plans or Morgan Elsbeth's revenge. He's using them to get what he wants. And Ahsoka. She's standing in his way. She's trying to stop Thrawn from returning to the galaxy, which would mess up Baylan's whole trip to Peridea. Plus, there's a weird respect thing going on too. Baylan doesn't hate Ahsoka the way he hates the Empire or the Jedi Order's failures. He actually thinks she's a worthy opponent, someone who understands the Force in a way most people don't. But that respect doesn't stop him from fighting her. He needs to get past her to reach Peridea, and he's not afraid to do whatever it takes. He even tells her once that it'd be a shame to kill someone like her, but he will if he has to. So yeah, Baylan chose to be Ahsoka's enemy because their paths crossed at the worst possible time. He's a man who's lost everything and is grasping for a new purpose, while she's trying to protect the galaxy from another war. Their fight isn't just about lightsabers and force powers. It's about two former Jedi who've seen the worst of the galaxy and come out with totally different ideas about how to fix it. Question 9. Was Thrawn's tactic of using Sabine to find Ezra reasonable? Thrawn's plan to use Sabine to track down Ezra was brilliant in its cruelty, and totally reasonable if you look at it from his cold, calculating perspective. This is the guy who turned every enemy's weakness into a weapon, and Sabine was the perfect pawn here. First off, Thrawn knew exactly how deep Sabine's bond with Ezra ran. They weren't just rebel buddies, they were family. Ezra had sacrificed himself to yank Thrawn into the unknown regions all those years ago, and Sabine had spent decades obsessing over finding him, even begging Ahsoka to train her in the Force just for a shot at locating her friend. Thrawn didn't need to dig for intel, he just had to look at Sabine's entire life post-rebellion, and he saw a woman who'd burn the galaxy down to get Ezra back. Then there's the logistics of it all. Thrawn was stranded in the unknown regions, stuck on Peridea with no way to get back to the galaxy he ruled. He knew Ezra was out there somewhere too, probably alive and kicking with the Purgle. But here's the thing. Ezra didn't want Thrawn to come back. He'd never lead Thrawn straight to him on purpose. But Sabine? She'd march right into Thrawn's crosshairs if it meant seeing Ezra again. So Thrawn's play was simple. Let Sabine find him first. He let Morgan Elsbeth open the hyperspace gate to Peridea, knowing Sabine would jump at the chance to follow. Once Sabine landed on that weird alien planet, Thrawn didn't even have to lift a finger to track Ezra. Sabine would do it for him, screaming Ezra's name, leaving a trail of clues everywhere she went. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Sabine's desperation led her straight to Ezra, and by extension, led Ezra straight to Thrawn. Was it a dirty move? Absolutely. Thrawn used Sabine's love for Ezra like a leash, turning her greatest strength into her biggest weakness. But was it reasonable? For a military genius like Thrawn, it was textbook strategy. He didn't waste resources on a wild goose chase for Ezra. He let the person who cared most about Ezra do the work for him. The only thing he didn't count on was Sabine's grit and the fact that Ezra would outsmart him at the last second. But hey, that's why we love these characters. Even the best laid plans of Sith-adjacent warlords can go sideways when heart is involved. Question 10. Will her neutral path in the Force influence the new generation of Force users? Ahsoka's neutral Force path isn't just some personal choice she made to stand out. It's a game changer for the new generation of Force users, and here's why. For centuries, the galaxy's always framed the Force as this black and white thing. You're either Jedi, swearing off all attachments and hiding your emotions, or you're Sith, feeding on anger and greed to fuel your power. There was no middle ground. No room to be both compassionate and fierce. No space to fight for good without tying yourself to a broken system. Then, Ahsoka came along. She walked away from the Jedi Order when they failed her. She fought the Sith and the Empire without sinking into the dark side, and she carved out a lane all her own, loyal to the light, but not blind to its flaws, aware of the dark, but never tempted by it. Now, think about the kids and the new Force users popping up after the Empire falls. They've seen the Jedi crumble, they've watched the Sith burn everything in their path, and they're scared to pick a side because both sides have left a trail of destruction. Then they hear about Ahsoka Tano, the former Padawan who survived Order 66, who wielded white lightsabers instead of blue or green or red, who fought for the galaxy without answering to a council or an emperor. She's proof that you don't have to choose between suppressing who you are and becoming a monster. Take Sabine Wren, for example. She's not some born Jedi prodigy, she's a Mandalorian warrior who wanted to learn the Force to find her friend. Ahsoka's training didn't try to turn her into a carbon copy of a traditional Jedi, it taught her to use the Force her way, to honor her attachments instead of letting them destroy her. That's the kind of lesson that sticks. Sabine's gonna go out there, and she's gonna tell other Force users what she learned from Ahsoka. And it's not just Sabine. There are countless other Force-sensitive kids hiding in the galaxy, scared to use their powers because they don't want to be labeled a Jedi or a Sith. Ahsoka's example gives them hope. It tells them that they can be their own kind of Force user, one who fights for justice, who loves fiercely, who doesn't let anyone else define their path. Her neutrality isn't about sitting on the sidelines. It's about showing the next generation that balance is possible. And that's going to change everything.